Professor Rajdurai Mani sir, you are the co-host. You can unmute, sir. You can unmute by yourself, sir. You are the co-host. You can unmute whenever your turn will come. You can unmute, sir. Thank you, sir.
மியூட்னா நான் பேசுறது கேட்கும்.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Very good morning, sir. Exactly. I have made you the co-host. You can unmute whenever you want, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And very welcome to you, sir, to this virtual platform.
Thank you very much. So you hear me and you see me, yes?
Yeah, definitely, sir.
That's fine. That's great.
Thank you very much, sir. So the meeting will start at sharp 9:30, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Professor Jayanti Dora ma'am, a very good morning. You are the co-host. You can unmute by yourself, ma'am, whenever your turn will come, ma'am. Thank you very much. ଆପଣ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରନ୍ତୁ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି। It's a great morning to one and all. Over to Mr. Harendra Narayan Behra, HOD Department of History.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Fakribani University, Professor Madhumita Das Madam, esteemed Principal, Rural Institute of Higher Studies, Bhogarai, Professor Sushil Kumar Giri sir, respected distinguished resource person of this webinar, Professor Christian Bartlov sir, Gandhi Information Center, Berlin from Germany, Professor Rajdurai Manisha, School of Social Sciences, the Gandhigram Rural Institute, Gandhigram, Tamil Nadu, Professor Dr. Jayanti Dora Madam, Department of History, Utkal University, Bhubaneswar from Odisha, and most importantly, our participants of this webinar. Myself, Harendra Narayan Behra, Head, Department of History, as well as convener of this webinar. I welcome you all to this virtual platform. Today, our department is organized an international webinar on the topic Gandhian perspective of self-reliance from local to global in association with internal quality assurance cell. Let's welcome our dignitaries. For that, I would like to request our esteemed principal, Rural Institute of Higher Education, uh, Professor Kumar Giri sir, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, one and all. I am very much pleased to know about this international webinar organized by the Department of History, RIGS Bhogarai. Further, I am extremely delighted on having virtual presence of our beloved Chief Patron, Professor Madhumita Das Madam, Vice Chancellor of Fakir Mohan University, Odisha. Our invited speakers from Professor Christian Bartlop, President Gandhi Information Center, Berlin, Germany. Professor Rajendra Moni, School of Social Sciences, the Gandhigram Rural Institute, Tamil Nadu. Professor Jayanti Dora, Department of History, Utkal University, Banibihar, Bhubaneswar, who will certainly enlighten us on the topic Gandhian perspective of self-reliance from local to global concerns. I welcome all the guests and resource persons from the core of my heart on behalf of the Rural Institute of Higher Studies, Bhogarai, Balasore. Again, I welcome all the participants and expect full cooperation for this webinar with their valuable suggestions and rational interaction. I also welcome and convey my good wishes to the convener, Mr. Harendra Narayan Behera, HOD History Coordinator, Dr. Jagannath Kumar, Organizing Secretary, Mr. Ranjit Mondor, Moderator, Mr. Sasank Pradhan, and their team for organizing this great intellectual event with all their perseverance, hard work, honesty, and integrity. Last but not the least, I welcome all the media friends who have joined this educational event. Finally, I conclude my welcome and address once again wishing all the success. Thanking you all.
Thank you, sir, for this warm welcome. Now, I request Dr. Jagannath Kumar to introduce our resource person and a guest of this webinar. Over to you, Professor Kumar.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a great morning, viewers. Welcome all of you to this virtual interface. I'm Dr. Jagannath Kumar, coordinator of this international webinar on Gandhian perspectives of self-reliance from local to global concern. It's an honor to introduce our today's speaker. At first, I'd like to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Madhumita Das ma'am. It's really a pride privilege to introduce Professor Das to our speakers and participants. Professor Das, Vice Chancellor of Fakir Mohan University, Balasore, Odisha, is an eminent and versatile figure in the field of geology. Professor Das, is it audible? Yes, Professor Das has carried out her research as a Guard Fellow under Indo-German Exchange Program at Heritage University, Heidelberg University in Germany, and presented her research work as delegate at Japan, China, UK, Portugal, Norway, South Africa, and many more countries. Presently, she is the Vice President of South Asian Association of Women Geoscientists and a member of corresponding citizen scientist of IFEG. She is known for her active association with various international research organizations such as International Association for Gondwana Research, International Medical Geology Association, Indian Institute of Mineral Engineering, IIME, among many others also. More than all, I'd like to introduce Professor Das. At first, she is a very eminent personality in the field of geology, as well as a good administrator and a very approachable human being. Your presence and continuous support, in spite of your busy schedule, ma'am, motivate us, motivate Rural Institute of Higher Studies to dream higher and dream bigger. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being present with us. It's always be a pleasure to us to listen to you and to have a guest, to have a chief patron, to have a vice chancellor like you. And with us, Professor Christian Bartolf, who is, I heartily welcome to you, sir. Presently, Professor Bartolf is President Gandhi Information Center, Berlin, Germany. Christian Bartolf is an educational and political scientist closely collaborating with the Free University Berlin. He is the president of Gandhi Information Center, Research and Education for Nonviolence, a society of education of benefit to the public based in Germany. He is a curator of more than 20 exhibitions on nonviolent resistance for the Berlin Anti-War Museum on Gandhi, Tolstoy, Nehru, Ruskin, Switzerland, Huxley et al. Professor Bartolf has extensively researched on Mahatma Gandhi's correspondence with contemporary and published several books and articles mainly on Tolstoy, Gandhi, and nonviolence resistance. Among his several publications, let me highlight some of them. The first and foremost one is Tolstoy and Gandhi on Nonviolent Resistance in 1994. The English language booklet on the origin of Leo Tolstoy doctrine of non-resistance and Mahatma Gandhi's concept of non-violence resistance satyagraha might be considered as an introductory essay for those who wish to draw a lesson out of this ethics and non-violence today. The second one, I want to spotlight that letter to a Hindus, Tarakanta Das, Leo Tolstoy, and Mahatma Gandhi, 1997, was the title of the 1908 letter from Leo Tolstoy, 1828 to 1910, to the Bengal social scientist Tarakanta Das, 1884-1958. It was well illustrated English language documentary volume published by the Gandhi Information Center. The third and most important part is Thurman Khanbach, Mahatma Gandhi Friend in South Africa, a biography, 1997. And the fourth one, We Do Not Want Violence, the Berber Gandhi Controversy in 1998. This is a bilingual volume published in 1998. It's documented the controversy between Mahatma Gandhi and the Professor Martin Berber and Judha al-Magna, and on the Palestine problem and non-violence resistance under totalitarian dictatorship. The fifth one, The Worth of Life, the correspondence of Mahatma Gandhi, India, and What Delight Poland, and the War and Peace 2000. It is a crucial and critical dialogue on Gandhi's war participation and a debate on necessary steps of anti-militarism to prevent war. It is of present relevance to the reader of English language. He had contributed many more. It's with a very stipulated time. It's not possible to speak all that things, but it's a real pleasure to have you, sir. It's a real pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, to be with us. Then our second speaker, Professor Rajdurani Mani, who is presently as Professor, School of Social Science, the Gandhigram Rural Institute, Tamil Nadu, India. He has more than 16 years of teaching and research experience. He has specialized in Gandhian thought, rural construction, rural development, watershed planning, and micro-level planning. And under his guidance, 16 MPhil and 4 or many more research scholars has been awarded as PhD. And on his name, there are many publications. He has published many books and chapters, published many edited books also, and in different proceedings in research conferences. He has also many publications in international and national journals. So let me highlight some of them. That the first and foremost is a study on the job satisfaction of the employees working in the Suvika mill in Dindigul district. Cooperative movement. Second one is cooperative movement, a Gandhian perspective, and many more, sir. So Professor Mani has attended many conferences and seminars in international and national repute. He also participated as a resource person in many national and international conferences. In addition to this, he has taken some additional responsibility in order to discharge the social responsibility, like a program officer, active program officer in NSS, coordinator of OIRC, chief organizer of Shanti Sena, convener of Health Committee. It's really a great pleasure to have you, sir, and I heartily welcome to you to this virtual interface. Thank you very much, sir. The third speaker and the eminent figure is Professor Jayanti Dora. I first welcome you, ma'am. And she is presently working as the HOD, Department of History, Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. Professor Dora has completed her MA, MPhil, PhD from Sambalpur University. She has 21 years of teaching and research experience, and her specialization in history and culture of Odisha, Indian history and culture, temple art and of Odisha. Professor Dora has published a huge number of research work in several states, national and international journals. Let me spotlight some major publications like historical background of the origin of Binjal in Baragar regions in Journal of Odishan History. The second and most important part is Buddhist heritage of Western Odisha, Journal of Odishan History. A study on Barahi images as independent deity, Department of JIS, Calcutta University. Goddesses worshipped during maritime activities in Odisha. Art of legendary and Chausati Yogini image at Haripur, and many more. She has edited many chapters in many books also that are the growth of education and political consciousness in the feudatory state of Bamanda during colonial rules, a study of Shakta monuments of Kalahandi district, a part of ancient South Kosala, historians and histography in India, recent trends, and many works which is not possible to deliberate in front of with a very stipulated time. So the most important part is Professor Dora has completed many major projects and sponsored by UGC, ICSR, UGC, DRS, and many more. Also, she has guided 30 research scholars and published many journals on the field. Professor Dora awarded with a Tanushree Memorial Award, ICHR Travel Contingency Award, National Scholarship Award, and many more. Presently, Professor Dora is associated with many academics and professional bodies like Orissa History Congress, India History Congress, Indian History, Culture and Society, and many more. So it's a great pleasure and honor to have you, ma'am, as our esteemed guest, and we are eagerly waiting to listen you, ma'am. Thank you very much to being with us. So it's all about our today's dignitaries. Over to Mr. Harendra Narayan Behra, HOD, Department of History. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kuara, for your lovely, brief introduction of our dignitaries and guests. Thank you so much. Now, it is the time. I am taking this opportunity to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Fakir Mohana University, Professor Madhumita Das Madam, to inaugurate this session with her special address. Over to you, Madam.
So ma'am is connecting. Please be with us. Ma'am is connecting. It's a network issue. Ma'am is connecting. Please be with us. So please be with yours. Ma'am is connecting. So thank you very much for being with us. Ma'am is connecting. So it's a technological error. Please be with us. Ma'am is connecting. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself, ma'am. Namaskar, ma'am. Professor Madhumita Das, ma'am. You can unmute yourself, ma'am.
Okay, okay, now.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Oh. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
A very good morning to all of you. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am. You are audible.
Hello?
Yeah, ma'am. You are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So this is what we are living in a technological era, but there are also technological hazards. So kindly bear with me. And also, I must congratulate the RIHS Bhograi, which is climbing step after step and going to a richer height, because we know that they are continuously conducting international webinars. And on behalf of Fakirmon University, I welcome all the dignitaries, all the resource persons for kindly agreeing to our very great I must thank the principal and his entire young dynamic for continuously putting their great effort organizing these international webinars. So I must thank also for agreeing to our invitation, and especially to Dr. Jayanti Dora, who is my colleague at Utkal University. So I am very happy to see Madam Dora also.
Namaskar, madam.
They have chosen a very, very relevant topic, which is very relevant in today's time, because when we are talking about the National Education Policy 2020, and this is nothing but we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat by our Prime Minister Modi, and this is nothing but we are now seeing the entire tree, but the seed goes to the cancer model. self-reliance, and that is what we are now doing, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So self-reliance, which was given by Mahatma Gandhi, it is nothing but a vision that indicated towards activities that are self-supporting in economic terms and reliance on one's own resources. We must rely on ourselves. We must use our own resources. If we go back to the ancient civilization, when it started with Indus Valley civilization, as we know, the entire civilization, even separated at three places. One is Indus Valley civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, and the Greek civilization. We talk about Indus Valley civilization. We started, we depended on our own agriculture, or maybe not farm activities, but Gandhiji started the development of his Swaraj in 1909. So in 1909, when he talked about the development in a holistic manner, development of body, mind, and soul, and also he taught us to practice truth, non-violence, and non-possession, and also that indicated a limit on our desires, or we can say that we have to have a ceiling on our desires that will not encourage us to go for materialistic benefit, but towards the spiritual benefit. So Gandhiji also in his hymn, he insisted on participatory governance, or you can say local governance, because he believed that the real economic development of any nation, or particularly India, will be effective when we develop the economic development of our villages. So villages will produce goods, and villages will send their products to the cities. Gandhiji was never against the industries, but he was against industrialization. That is why Gandhiji promoted khadi and also the cottage industries. So what I must congratulate the resource persons, and also we are looking forward to hear from them. And I also thank the organizers for choosing a very relevant topic, the Gandhian self-reliance model, based on 5 pillars. The self-reliance model based on 5 pillars. The system, now we are a system which we are putting effort in the system which is technology driven, and demography, and the 5th one is demand. So Gandhiji insisted on putting focus on middle class and on villages, on cottage industry. Now Modi government is also, the cottage industry is nothing but the
So
Is it okay now? Hello?
Ma'am, it's audible now. Yeah, ma'am. It's audible now.
Okay. I would like to motivate and inspire our youth not to go mad after cities. So let us take a slogan. Chalo. So I would conclude my speech with the slogan. Chalo now ki let us see that our villages develop. Let us use our own resources. Let us become self-reliant, following the Gandhian principles. Thank you all, and I wish the webinar a great success and a great day ahead. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, madam, for your
Namaskar.
appreciation. Namaskar, madam, for your appreciation about our topic, which is very relevant. You have pointed out a few things about about history, and I want to quote that. You have said that the first stage of self-sufficiency is led by our Prime Minister, that is National Education Policy. Then you talked about Atmanirbhar Bharata, which is now the slogan of this webinar and a slogan of this country, to become Atmanirbhar, to become self-sufficient. And you have also stated that it is our vision to become self-sufficient within our own resources. We have talked about civilizations like Harappan civilization, Mesopotamia civilization, and we know Arnold J. Toynbee also said that there is a challenge and response theory. When anything challenged us, we have to respond it positively so that we can go ahead and ahead. And lots of examples are there, and we know during this pandemic situation, and we are just living in a very disastrous way. We can find that post-COVID era will not be same as the pre-COVID era. That's why we accept the challenge, and we must overcome that challenge one day. Definitely, madam. And you said development in a holistic approach. That is the policy. That is the philosophy of Gandhiji, and that is really you have touched us. Then you have pointed out another thing, that Gandhiji was not against industry, but was against industrialization. We have to make our villages self-sufficient. That's why our people, our young generation, our young mass will definitely benefit from that. Thank you, madam, for your appreciation. Thanks a lot, madam, for your special address. We are honored and blessed for your kind presence in this virtual platform. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you. And today's webinar is, thank you, madam. Today's webinar is very much relevant when we are talking about self-sufficiency or Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have been experiencing rust phase in economy. In order to get out from that situation, we have to focus certain new thoughts like self-sufficiency India. The Gandhian model itself states that self-sufficiency has to be followed to get better result in order to save our economy. The village has been always given the prime importance in Gandhian economy. India lives in village. That's why Gandhi advocates village Swaraj. Gandhi advocates village Swaraj that gives more power to citizen in each and every aspect of life. Thank you so much. Now, this is the time to listen from Professor Christian Backlov, who is our keynote speaker also. He will speak on the topic, a new era, the example of Dukovars in the words of Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi. Over to you, sir. Professor Christian.
Can you hear me and can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
it is very fine. I'm very happy. Thank you so much for your kind invitation. I want, as a prologue, first invite you to watch my video on Savodaya, welfare of all, advancement of all, and particularly the influence of John Ruskin's book Unto This Last on Mahatma Gandhi when he was in South Africa. And also his being influenced by John Langalibalele Dube and his Olange Institute close to Phoenix Settlement in South Africa. This was inspired by Booker T. Washington's Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in USA. It was part of the, we can say, civil rights movement. So the forerunner of the African National Congress was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi and his Phoenix Settlement and his Satyagraha campaign. So this reference I gave you now, also you find it in the chat, is a lecture, a recent lecture, is Savodaya as Emancipation, Ruskin, Tolstoy, Gandhi. And you can also read it. If you don't want to listen to it, it's a nice video, then you can also read it. You find the complete text. And this was the one route which is important to understand Gandhi's concept of Savodaya and Swadeshi, self-reliance, self-rule, Swaraj. But there is another very important influence on Gandhi, which I want to refer to today. And that is why I thought it would be proper to shed light on a very important history. And this is the reason why I called my lecture today A New Era, the example of the Dukobors, spirit wrestlers, in the words of Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi. This is important because somehow the Dukobors, the spirit wrestlers, were a kind of role model for Leo Tolstoy as well as for Mahatma Gandhi. And in two aspects. One is the self-reliant way of life, farming, gardening, cultivating the land, independent from the Tsarist authorities, from the Russian Orthodox Church. And on the other hand, these vegetarians and pacifists, they were burning their weapons in 1895. They were in favor of non-violence under the influence of Leo Tolstoy's book, The Kingdom of God is Within You, which inspired the young student Mahatma Gandhi in London during his student days. Gandhi was highlighting this book. And I want to tell you that this story should be known as a basic lesson for all people in the world, not just in India or in Germany, but for all people in the world. And I want to show you a book. This is a book, it's called Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi, A Unique Legacy. It's in Russian language and it is in Hindi language. It was published in the year 2009. And in a very fine essay, Dr. Anand writes, Gandhi often referred to the history of Doukhobors, whom Tolstoy had described. They had refused to cooperate with the state in its violent activities and had finally migrated to Canada. And now a quote of Gandhi, but the fact stands that they have lived this life of non-resistance as a community. This was 1925 when Gandhi wrote this retrospect. The Doukhobors, they were a role model because they, as a community, lived according to the principles of Satyagraha and Savodaya. They were the real Gandhians, the Gandhian community, and they were persecuted by the Russian authorities, by the Tsarist regime and the Cossacks, and they were forced to migrate, to emigrate. And I plan to give you a guided tour through our exhibition on the Doukhobors, in the words of Tolstoy and Gandhi, just to get an idea about these people. Now, first, we should now understand that we are not living in a void. There is the United Nations. Today, we are on the 26th of September observing a United Nations International Day. The International Day for the total elimination of nuclear weapons has been observed annually since 2014. The civil society, including non-governmental organizations, academia, also mass media journalists and individuals, are encouraged to commemorate and promote this International Day for the total elimination of nuclear weapons through public awareness and education about the threat posed to humanity by nuclear weapons and the necessity for their total elimination. This is what you can read on the website of the United Nations. This is our day we are meeting. And why? Why do I mention this? Because if we had followed the path of Leo Tolstoy, Mahatma Gandhi, and this community of Doukhobortsi, spirit wrestlers, who are not wrestling with weapons, but with their spirit, then we would not face the situation of a multiplication of atom bombs, which Mahatma Gandhi warned against in his speech at the Inter-Asian Relations Conference on 2nd of April, 1947. This is relating to all states who are owning nuclear weapons, and also those states which participate in the keeping up of a nuclear weapon deterrence system. So it is referring to all citizens of the United Nations. Now I want to give you an idea about the Doukhobors. It is quite interesting. First of all, not so many people know that Gandhi in his time, he drew from the best inspiration, inspiration of the best contemporaries. And these were, for example, abolitionists who were against slavery, like William Lloyd Garrison, Edwin Ballou, and Henry David Thoreau, who coined the term civil disobedience because he did not pay taxes, poll taxes, for many years. Why? Because he protested against the US-American-Mexican War to expand the territory where slavery was introduced. So he was put into jail for one night, and then he got free because of his relative who paid. And then Thoreau, he produced a lecture, an essay, and this became worldwide famous, influenced Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. first influence, and influenced Mahatma Gandhi, first influence, in 1907. And Gandhi wrote this essay in his Indian opinion. This was immediately before he coined the new term satyagraha, firmness in truth through nonviolent resistance. But also, he drew inspiration from John Ruskin until this last, referring to the New Testament parable of the workers in the vineyard, getting paid all the same, equal pay, a guaranteed income for everyone to keep up the human dignity. Equality was the key message of John Ruskin, and the virtue of bread labor. Also, this concept was inspired by a peasant writer from Russia, Timofey Bondarev. And Timofey Bondarev inspired Leo Tolstoy in his concept of bread labor. And Gandhi also connected this concept of bread labor, that the life of a farmer, of a gardener, is the real good life. And it should be also so that academics work for 1 month at least, 1 month per year on a farm, in a garden. This was the idea of Timofey Bondarev. And this concept of bread labor, Gandhi referred to the Indian concept of sacrifice, yajna, explicitly. So you can read it in our essay on Ruskin, Tolstoy, and Gandhi. But now coming back to the Dokubors, this community, role model community, it was so that famous Russian writer Tolstoy was in a crisis. He saw the vanity of his life as a privileged count. He was on the verge of committing suicide. He was in despair. And this deep crisis was the beginning, a new beginning of a spiritual journey, which made him the most ardent and outspoken advocate of resistors, nonviolent resistors worldwide. And his solidarity with the pacifist and vegetarian community of the Dokubors, the spirit wrestlers, and their spiritual leader, Peter Virigin, this led to the worldwide first example of a mass act of burning weapons in the year 1895. Tolstoy's concept of nonviolent non-cooperation as nonviolent resistance to injustice and violence became manifest to the international community and public. And Tolstoy supported the Dokubors during his life. He even largely paid the passage of the Dokubors to Canada, to the exile, across the Atlantic Ocean. And Tolstoy arranged for the royalties from his last novel, Resurrection, to go to the migration fund, 30,000 rubles for the Dokubors. So in 1898, Tolstoy contrasted the Spanish-American War of 1898 with the Doukhobors' burning of the weapons in 1895. Tolstoy wrote about two wars. The first, the Spanish-American War, was an old, vain, foolish, and cruel war, inopportune, out-of-date, barbarous, which sought by killing one set of people to solve the question as to how and by whom another set of people ought to be governed. The other, which was then still going on, and will end only when there is an end of all war, is a new self-sacrificing holy war, which was long ago proclaimed, as Victor Hugo expressed it at one of the congresses, by the best and most advanced Christian section of mankind against the other, the coarse and savage section. This war has recently been carried on with a special vigor and success by a handful of Christian people, the Doukhobors of the Caucasus, against the powerful Russian government. The Russian government has made use of all the weapons it had at command. Police measures for making arrests, for prohibiting people moving from place to place, for forbidding all intercourse with one another, the interception of letters, espionage, the prohibition to publish in the newspapers information about anything concerning the Doukhobors, calumnies of them printed in the papers, bribery, flogging, imprisonment, and the ruin of families. The Doukhobors have, on their part, employed their one religious weapon, that is gentle intelligence and patient firmness. And they say, one must not obey man rather than God. Therefore, whatever you may do to us, we cannot and will not obey you. Man praised the heroes of the savage Spanish-American War, who in their desire to distinguish themselves before the world and to gain reward and fame, have slain great numbers of men, or have died while engaged in killing their fellow creatures. But no one speaks or even knows about the heroes of the war against war, who, unseen and unheard, have died and now dying under the rod in foul prison cells or in painful exile, and who nevertheless, to the last breath, stand firm by goodness and truth. These are Tolstoy's words. You see how much Mahatma Gandhi was a Tolstoyan, a follower of Tolstoy. These were his words. Stand firm by goodness and truth. This weapon is the obedience of every man to his own reason and conscience. This indeed is so simple, so indubitable, and binding upon every man. You wish to make me a participator in murder? You demand of me money for the preparation of weapons and want me to take part in the organized assembly of murderers, says the reasonable man, he who has neither sold nor obscured his conscience. But I profess that law, the same that is also professed by you, which long ago forbade not murder only, but hostility also, and therefore I cannot obey you. It is just by this simple means, and by it alone, that the world is being conquered. The Doukhobors, this word stems from Doukhobors, Doukhobors in Russian language, meaning spirit wrestler. These Doukhobors was a dissident group in Russia which rejected the supremacy of the church and the state since the 17th century. The Doukhobors adapted this label as one that best reflects them, because it was a label given them by the Russian Orthodox Church. They saw them as wrestling against the spirit, but no, they adopted this label as one that best reflects them as wrestling with the spirit of truth. In this way, they converted the label to their very name, which you find with many of those despised minorities. It was only under the autocracy of Tsar Alexander I in 1802 that the Doukhobors gained the legal status of subjects to the Tsar. Then they were invited to settle as model farmers on the Crimean Milky Waters, a commune system mirror of communal ownership of the land. And equal land distribution gave them the basis to preserve their unique customs, traditions, and beliefs. That was, again, I want to repeat this, the commune system mirror of communal ownership of the land and equal land distribution. You know, that was long ago, long before communism. It was nothing to do with communism, you know, in the Soviet style. No. It was a commune system mirror of communal ownership of the land and equal land distribution. This was the basis so that they could preserve their unique customs, traditions, and beliefs. And this was also the idea behind inventing Sarvodaya by Gandhi, because different vocations, if someone can carry out different vocations, is skilled in different vocations, this is the basis for a fearless satyagrahi following his conscience with non-violent resistance. So the Doukhobors practiced conscientious objection to military service. And Peter Verigin was the head of a large party of this community. He was in Siberian exile when he read the book by Leo Tolstoy, The Kingdom of God is Within You, which was explicitly against military conscription. Verigin asked the Doukhobors to neither swear the oath to the Tsar Nicholas II, nor drink alcohol, nor smoke, nor eat meat, nor associate with the military. So it was a program behind that. No alcohol, no smoking, no eating meat, so vegetarianism, and no association with the military. And thus the first public demonstration of civil disobedience took place on Easter 1895. Matvei Lebedev and the first 10 Doukhobors, they threw down their rifles during their training in the Elizabeth-Pol Reserve Battalion. Along with 60 other Doukhobors who followed their example, they were sent to a disciplinary battalion. Then, 1 minute after midnight of 29th of June, 1895, that is now in our time, it is the 12th of July, 1895. Then it followed the first major mass act of arms burning in human history of altogether 7,000 Doukhobor activists. A literal conversion of a conversion of swords into plowshares. At 3 chosen sites, one in Kars, now in Turkey, one in Elizabeth-Pol, now in Azerbaijan, and one in the northern plateau of Georgia, in the area of Bogdanovka. All preparations were done secretly as Doukhobor men with horse-drawn wagons gathered weapons and placed them into a huge pile. To this they added wood, sun-dried manure bricks in teepee style and sprinkled the whole with kerosene before placing a match to it. Around the fire stood Doukhobor men and women, many wearing traditional colorful padded vests and padded headdress, for the women covered with kerchiefs, singing psalms of peace and the coming of a new era inhumanity. And what followed was persecution. Captain Praga and 200 Cossacks used horsewhips and then military whips against them, forcibly marched them 13 kilometers to the governor, where the Doukhobors continued to sing psalms. When 300 Doukhobors handed in their reserve papers, the governor Nakashidze threatened them with death. Prince Ospinsky from St. Petersburg intervened dramatically in Bogdanovka, unsheathed his saber and threatened the governor. The Cossacks were ordered to put away their guns. That was the beginning of severe beatings and floggings and the exile of 4,600 Doukhobors to Gori, Signa, Tianeti, Dusheti, and Skra. Those reserve soldiers who refused to accept the gun and the oath, as well as to go to church parade, were treated harshly and exiled to Baku, Yerevan, and Elizabethpol. Many died before the world learned about them. But Tolstoy wanted to prevent the imminent danger of genocide, early genocide against the Doukhobors. Tolstoy rushed to complete his novel Resurrection to assist the Doukhobors' passage to Canada. By publicizing the plight of the Doukhobors in Russia, he persuaded English Quakers and intellectuals like Prince Peter Kropotkin and Professor James Mavor from the University of Toronto to assist this humanitarian cause. And in November 1897, Leo Tolstoy wrote an open letter to a Swedish newspaper editor to recommend the Caucasian Doukhobors or spirit wrestlers for the first Nobel Peace Prize, because they have best served the cause of peace. These were Tolstoy's words. And Tolstoy wrote, I know this means has already for long been practiced. I know how the ancient Christians who refused the military service were executed by the Romans for doing so. These refusals are described in the lives of the saints. I know how the Paulicians were, every one of them, destroyed for the same conduct. I know how the Bogomili were persecuted and how the Quakers and Mennonites suffered for the same cause. And also how at the present time in Austria, the Nazarenes are languishing in prisons and how people have been martyred in Russia. But the fact that all these martyrdoms have not abolished war in no way proves that they have been useless. To say that this means is not efficacious, because it has already been applied for a long time and yet war still exists, is the same as to say that in spring the sun's warmth is not efficacious because the ground has not yet become bare of snow and flowers have not yet sprung up. The meaning of these refusals in former times and now is quite different. Then they were the first rays of the sun falling on the frozen winter earth. Now they are the last touch of warmth necessary to destroy the remains of the seeming winter, which has lost its power. And in fact, there never was before that which now is. Never before was the absurdity so evident that all men, without exception, strong and weak, disposed for war and abhorring it, should be equally obliged to take part in military service, or that the greater part of the national wealth should be spent on continually increasing military preparations. Never before was it so clear as in our time that the continual excuse for the gathering and maintenance of armies, the supposed necessity of defense from an imaginary attack of enemies, has no basis in reason, and that all these threats of attack are only the invention of those to whom armies are necessary for their own purpose of maintaining power over the nations. This is what Tolstoy wrote. And he went on, It has never occurred before that war threatened man with such dreadful devastations and calamities, and such massacres of whole populations as it does at the present time. And lastly, never before have those feelings of unity and goodwill among nations, owing to which war appears to be something dreadful, immoral, senseless, and fratricidal, been so widely spread. But above all, never, as it is now, was the deceit so evident by which some people compel others to prepare for war, burdensome, unnecessary, and abhorrent to all. So in 1899, 1/3 of the Doukhobors, 7,500 of the most persecuted ones, went by ship to Canada. Now I would like to ask you, please, is it possible, I asked Dr. Jena before, to share my screen for a while? Would you please allow me to share my screen? Is it okay? Hello? I would like to show you our exhibition. Yes.
Sir, you are the co-host, sir. You can share, sir.
I would like to share my screen now. Is it okay?
Okay, sir, okay.
Yeah. So I can do this technically, yes?
Yeah, sir. You can do, sir. Share.
Yeah, that is very nice of you. So I will share my screen.
Yeah.
I will share my screen to show you our some tables of our exhibition and the Gandhi quote. And that is very nice of you. So now I will start to share my screen now. And I hope you can see now my, do you see my, my screen, yeah? Can you see this?
Yeah, sir. It's visible, sir.
Yeah, can you see my,
yeah, Leo Tolstoy and the doctor.
yeah, that is very nice. So we go into the exhibition. This is the exhibition. You see, this is the exhibition. We enter the exhibition, and this is on our website. I just, you see, this is the Gandhi quote. I want to give the link to you later on in the chat.
Okay.
And this is the Gandhi quote from his autobiography, Satyagraha in South Africa from 1928. And he said, Jesus Christ indeed has been acclaimed as the prince of passive resistance, but I submit in that case, passive resistance must mean Satyagraha and Satyagraha alone. There are not many cases in history of passive resistance in that sense. One of these is that of the Doukhobors of Russia, cited by Tolstoy. The phrase passive resistance was not employed to denote the patient suffering of oppression by thousands of devout Christians in the early days of Christianity. I would therefore class them as satyagrahis. And if their conduct be described as passive resistance becomes synonymous with satyagraha. And now I show you, this is a very fine painting of this weapon burning. This is a painting which we received from the historians of the Doukhobors in Canada. The Doukhobors are now emancipated citizens of Canada after 100 years of emancipation struggle. These were Russian immigrants. This is Tolstoy and his secretary Chatkov. And Chatkov writes about the Doukhobors in his book, Their Martyrdom in Russia. Christians of the Universal Brotherhood. And here you find also Chatkov and Tolstoy. And here you find the first forced immigration from South Russia, from from the Black Sea down to Georgia and northeast Turkey and now Azerbaijan. And there are some more maps. Here you find the main settlements in Georgia, Bogdanovka, Gorelovka. This is near Armenia nowadays. And here you find Nobel's bequest letter addressed to a Swedish editor, Tolstoy. This is a village. You see, I have visited the Doukhobors in South Russia in the 90s, beginning of the 90s. And these were the same peasant farmhouses. They were supported then by the Canadian Doukhobor friends. I have been in South Russia in near Tsensk at Alexandrovka, and this is the village of Voznesenia, Thunder Hill Colony in Saskatchewan. This is a game. This is to honor the Doukhobors in a game for children, plowshares, a cooperative adventure game. I can show you this game. I have a sample of this game. I can show you later if you like. And this is Russia. Russians, I would say, Russian saint number one, Leo Tolstoy, who on his birthday, 9th September, there should be another United Nations International Day for Compassion and Empathy. And here you see him dressed in a peasant, like a peasant. He wanted to become a peasant, the same as Gandhi, who gave his profession as a farmer, a weaver, a peasant. This is a painting of Ilya Repin in St. Petersburg. Well, sorry, but I have to leave this. You see this peasant. He was influential. Many Tolstoy colonies were created then. These Tolstoy colonies in the Purley colony and the in England, for example. This was James Mather and the author of the book on mutual aid, Peter Kropotkin, both supported the Doukhobors. James Mather was a professor of political economy and constitutional history at the University of Toronto. And there are Indian students now in Toronto who invited us to give a message. And we also refer to Toronto and the Doukhobors, Toronto as the place of the first publication of Bondarev's book on labor, on bread labor in English language, which could have been studied by the young student Mahatma Gandhi in London. And here, this is the ship. They went first to Cyprus, then from Batumi, then via Cyprus, then to Canada, first to Saskatchewan, and then to British Columbia after some time. You see, this is a map of their escape. Also, the immigration through the Great Lakes, the migration route, 1898. This was Tolstoy then. I'm so happy that I can share this exhibition for you. You can find it on our website. And this is a wonderful house. You see what a beautiful culture. I think this is maybe one of the most beautiful wooden houses I have ever seen in my life. This is the main building of the Doukhobor settlement in Gorelovka in Georgia. It's so beautiful. And certainly you find beautiful buildings like this in many parts of the world, but this is outstanding, really. It's Hirotsky Dom, 1847. What a great art, what a great culture. And it's on, it's in a village, Gorelovka, Georgia. And this is the places of their settlements near Tiflis nowadays. This is Batumi, Black Sea, from where they escaped. And also Tolstoy's wife supported this cause. Sofia Andreevna, yes, she did. But Tolstoy really found this essential during the last 20 years of his life to support the resistors worldwide, particularly the Doukhobors. And he made an appeal on behalf of the Doukhobors in 1898. This is Peter Verigin. He is visiting Tolstoy's secretary. You know, Gandhi and his friend Hermann Kallenbach, the great architect, who both of them built up the Tolstoy farm near Johannesburg, Lawley Station. And both of them had a correspondence with Leo Tolstoy, asked them if they were allowed to name the farm after Tolstoy. And also, Hermann Kallenbach visited the Tolstoyans in England, the translators, Isabella Faivi-Mayo, the publisher, C.W. Daniel, the translator, Elmer Maud, the secretary, Chertkov. So Kallenbach visited them. And both Gandhi and Kallenbach supported the widow of the station owner who hosted Leo Tolstoy during his last days. They supported her financially. They were really highlighting Tolstoy. And these are the organizers of the burning of arms in Kars province. And this is Tolstoy again playing chess with one son of Chertkov. And this is the monument in Canada for Leo Tolstoy. In the Doukhobor Discovery Center, this is a museum of the Doukhobors in British Columbia at Castlegar. These are the places of the weapon burning. I go back. This is the son of Tolstoy who supported the Doukhobors. In Canada, he accompanied the Doukhobors. That is Sergei Tolstoy. These are the friends of the Doukhobors. Among them, the son Sergei Tolstoy. And these are Tolstoyans who assisted the Doukhobors in their migration to Canada. Yeah, then they were forced to Siberia very early. And these are Tolstoy's sons, who were, some of them led a very luxurious life that caused the split between Tolstoy and his wife because of the luxury of some of the sons. We should know that there were some financial problems in the family. So it was not all paradise on earth for them. These are the settlements of the Doukhobors in Canada and in British Columbia. So you find this on in our exhibition. This is Sergei Tolstoy again. We should highlight him. Again, burning of the arms. And now we have here, I show you that. It is very interesting in how many writings you find references to the Doukhobors. These are all the Tolstoy's writings where he refers to the Doukhobors. You know, all between 1895 and 1910. Also, You can find references to the Dokubors in Tolstoy's correspondence with Gandhi between 1908 and 1910. So now I unshare the screen, and I want to give you the link of this exhibition so you can see it for yourself. And it might be so that we might have the impression that this is such a wonderful, great history. By the way, with a happy end, because we know now the Dokubors are happy citizens of Canada, but they were pushed out of Russia. That's what we know. And many died, and they were somehow, nevertheless, the role model for Tolstoy and Gandhi as a community. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. And in case there are any questions, I will be happy to respond if I'm able to. In a way, you know, these Dokubors, which I portray to you today, they were all farmers, craftsmen, gardeners. They were all doing bread labor, and they were from Russian descendants. And now they are living in countries like Russia, the Moluccans in the USA. And also, the Dokubors returned back from Georgia, Azerbaijan to Russia, and particularly in South Russia. So it was a proof that it was possible to apply the principles of nonviolent non-cooperation, nonviolent resistance, and also a self-reliant life on a basis of a community. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. It's a great lecture, in fact. You have pointed out so many things. You have pointed out about the Dokubors, a role model community, a pacifist and a vegetarian community. They acted like a ambassador of peace that followed the Dokubians community prosecuted by Russian government by the autocratic rule while observing Satyagraha, a mass act of a burning weapon done in 1895. Tolstoy supports the cause of Dokubors, and the impact of the influence on Gandhi and the impact of Gandhi and Satyagraha was also discussed in international level, and the passive resistance, that is Satyagraha, also was followed there. 7,000 Dokubors joined in the mass burning weapon that you have pointed out, and now at that time 4,600 exiles of Dokubors. Then Leo Tolstoy wanted to prevent the genocide to Dokubors, and he also had an interview with a Swedish newspaper, said the Dokubors are best servants of peace, and you have pointed out that, and now they are happy in Canada. Thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful lecture. We have collected few questions, and definitely we will discuss in the interaction session, in the last session. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we have Professor Rajadurai Mani, School of Social Sciences, the Gandhian Rural Institute, Tamil Nadu. He will speak about the topic Gandhian approach to rural development. Over to you, sir. Professor.
No. Hello? Hello, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yes.
So very good morning to you all. Most respected Vice Chancellor of the Fakir Mohan University, Pala Show, then respected Principal of the Rural Institute of Higher Studies, and organizers of this great international webinar, including Dr. Dhirendra Kumar Jena. Let me thank the opportunity given by the principal of this institute. It's a great opportunity to deliver a lecture on Gandhian approach to rural development. The Gandhian approach to rural development that I'm going to speak now. Shall I have the presentation?
Yes, sir. You can, sir.
Okay.
Sir, please share your screen, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, you are the co-host. You can
Is
share,
that
sir.
okay? Okay.
It's not visible.
Is it clear, sir? Is it visible?
No, not at all, sir. It's not visible.
Is it visible, sir?
No, sir, not at all. It's not visible, sir.
Is it visible?
No, sir, not at all. Not visible, sir.
Okay, let me discuss. Okay. I will share to you at the last.
Yes, sir. Okay. Continue, please, sir. Please continue.
Okay, the Gandhian dream of Indian villages. Gandhi had a simple living and high thinking while he practiced. He made his mark as a reformer and as a thinker and as a liberator. He was practical ideologist. Mahatma Gandhi is a visionary of India, had a very clear perception of the villages. He stated about the village, how it should be. The village, India lives in 7.5 lakhs of villages. He further believed that India will have to live in the villages. If villages perishes, the India will perish too. He
It's visible,
found
sir. It's visible.
that the progress of the country. Now it's is it clear, sir?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Okay,
Yes,
no,
sir.
okay.
It's visible. Yes.
Okay. So he found that the progress of the country less than the development of the majority of the rural villages. My idea of self-sufficiency is that the villages must be self-sufficient in regard to not only the food, food, clothes, and other basic necessities. But even this can be overdone. Therefore, you must grasp my idea properly. Self-sufficiency does not mean narrowness. He has given, and right now our one of the speaker, he stated about the Sarvodaya, the concept of Sarvodaya, and how the Sarvodaya it come out from the great scholar John Ruskin. So in 1904, Gandhiji undertook a railway journey from Johannesburg to Durban in South Africa. When the train was about to start, one of his friends, namely Henry Pollock, his own friend, he gave a book to Gandhiji. The book was known as Unto This Last, written by John Ruskin. It is very famous, and also it is a turning point to Mahatma Gandhi. He changed his lifestyle all on a sudden, like a magic. He described as a magic spell of this book. So this book is very clearly says that the three ideas about the good of the book is contained, the good of the individual is contained in the good of all. That lawyers' work has the same value as the farmer's work, as much as all have the same right of earning their livelihood from their work. The life of labor, the tiller of the soil, and the handicraftsman is the life worth living. This is what the summarize of that book, and he got an idea about the magic spell of that book. From that, the social, it has the several philosophy it includes in the Sarvodaya. The social philosophy of Sarvodaya, it is related to removal of untouchability and discriminations. So even now, after independence, we crossed 73 years of years. Even we had this kind of the sin even in the villages. Even in the villages, it is exists. So Gandhi very particularly to remove this untouchability. So it has come under the social philosophy of his own Sarvodaya concept. So then he wanted to promote a caste-led society, the prohibitions, equality of religion, eradication of leprosy, then social equality. The men and women are equal. So in that way, the communal unity also among the Sarvodaya concept under the social philosophy. The communal unity and interreligious relationship. Also the village sanitations. One more thing is the basic education. The concept was born in Varda, and it was nurtured by the stalwarts like the Ariyanayagam, and Asa Devi in Varda, under the guidance of Gandhiji and Vinobaji during the period 1937 to 1959. By education, what he means is all-round drawing out of the best in child and man, body, mind, and spirit. So literacy is not the end of education, or even the beginning. It is only of the means by which man and woman can be educated. So he also stated that the 5 stages of Naitalim and their suitable age levels also quoted in the basic education or Naitalim. So adult education, pre-basic education, then basic education, post-basic education, university level education. These type of 5 stages of Naitalim, it is constituted. It was given by the basic education. Adult education is the whole community, including the parents. And the pre-basic education, children between the 2.5 to 7 years. Basic education between 7 and 14 years of age group. Post-basic education is 14 to 18 years. University level beyond 18 years. An economic philosophy of Sarvodaya is the removal of mass poverty. So poverty stricken families are high. Even more than 65% of them living in rural areas. So at present, we have calculated that 26% of them are lives in poverty. So even now we are getting reduced by giving more number of the welfare and development programs by lifting the people for their removal of the mass poverty by generating employment opportunities. This is Gandhi. He is very particular about the bread labor concept. Man must earn his bread by laboring with his own hands. So the economic equality. That's why he wanted to have the Gandhian village industries. Then production by masses and not mass productions. Then the big machine should be avoided. And usage of local resources. We have umpteen number of resources available at the local level, village level, or micro level. Then we have to utilize that resources optimally, that resources for our needs. Then non-corruptions, abolition of bonded labor, the usage of natural fertilizers, then environmental protections, equal wages to all workers, dignity of labor, and also the welfare of Kisan. See, he has given the 18 constructive programs. It is one of the programs, the welfare of Kisans. The Bhutan, after Gandhi, the Bhutan, Vinobaji has given Bhutan, Ramdan, Shanti Sena, like that, he has added. The political philosophy of Sarvodaya. He wanted to have decentralization of power and participatory democracy. The people should come forward to participate in their own developments. Whatever they need, they should come forward to participate in all aspects of their developments. That is why he wanted to have the partyless democracy. Then local self-government, the Panchayat Raj system, how the Panchayat Raj system should be. Now we have the new Panchayat Raj system, it is existed. Now, even after 100 years, the 1882 to 1992, we have the new Panchayat Raj system now. 100 years, it got the evolutions. From the Lord Ripon, he was the only man he thought about the local self-government in those days. But from that onwards, then it is slowly coming up, and also now we are at the point of enjoying this new Panchayat Raj scheme new Panchayat Raj scheme. Under that, the people are enjoyed. So local self-government and also non-corruptions, the people's power. Village Swaraj, it is Village Swaraj. Without the Village Swaraj, the India cannot be grown. So village must be developed. So Village Swaraj, he was emphasized. Then good governance at all levels. Good governance at all level, village to international level. Also, he also pointed out the transparency. Transparency is very much essential for every levels. Also, he made a rural reconstruction effort for this. He wanted to bring about the rural reconstruction with sound scientific and spiritual values through his 18 constructive program. Gandhiji has given this 18th program. It was successfully implemented in rural reconstruction activities in Sevakaram Center near Varda in 1935. The Gandhi movement was only the mass mobilization movement, and his constructive program, he gave the first place to communal harmony. From communal harmony to students, and He has given 18 constructive programs, not on all this sudden. He has given 13 programs and then 5 programs. But when he was listed out the 18 programs, he was not telling about this is an order. So, he has given this is the these are the programs. So everywhere in the world, the individuals and groups are divided because of the fear and suspicion and hatred towards each other, which further depends on the whether decisions expressed itself along religious and economic, political, caste, color, illness, whatever in the form, insecurities perhaps the major cause of individual or social distancing. Gandhi felt the need of communal unity. He was very much for the communal harmony among the people without any disturbances or discrimination in the name of religions. So removal of untouchability is the second constructive program of Gandhi. It is at first, it has to be removed. He was telling about the removal of untouchability. When you are telling the untouchability is a sin, according to Gandhi, it has to be removed. So Gandhiji's views about prohibitions, then Gandhi village industries, village sanitation, then decentralization of power, or women empowerment, or need for basic education for all, every views hold good and is followed presently. So Make in India is nothing but it is self-sufficiency, and Swachh Bharat mission is nothing but village sanitation, health and hygiene, as emphasized by Gandhiji. Now the present government is very fortunate to have this kind of the Make in India as well as the Swachh Bharat mission. They are doing wonderful services to the humanities at the village, the grassroots levels. So individuality and economic independence were two things very close to Gandhiji's heart. So present trend indicate the best times when both these are at their prime. Also, the Khadi and village industries. Khadi and village industries, Gandhiji believed that the Khadi and village industries were the only alternative. This is evident from a statement challenge to rulers, whom he stated that the government would provide full employment to all without the help of Khadi and village industries. So Khadi and village industries, only rural industries will help to uplift the economy of the grassroots level people. So the resource based, and also they are getting employment through the village industries. We also prefer to wind up my constructive program this year. He said the production of khadi include cotton growing, picking, ginning, cleaning, guarding, slivering, spinning, sizing, dyeing, preparing the warp and woof, weaving and winding. So these are the small scale industries. These are the types of various small kinds of industries. Because of a village economy cannot be complete without essential industries such as hand grinding. It was those periods the people are using this hand grinding, hand bounding, soap making, paper making, then metal making, churning, soil processing. So these are the various kinds of rural industries, cottage industries, and there could be this will give more employment opportunities for the rural masses. That is why Gandhi is very particular about the village, and Khadi and village industries must be there in the villages to uplift the village, so that the village can be uplifted. Also, the village, or as the village will sustain. The Gandhi had anticipated the complementary relationship between the Khadi and village industries. He also had a plan of rural reconstruction. the ancient republican village without any kind of expectations served as a model. The Gandhi aimed at the attainment of village Swaraj and set in the year 1942. My idea of village Swaraj is that it is a complete republic. Village Swaraj, when he was telling about the village Swaraj, his idea is that it's a complete republic, independent of its neighbors for its own vital wants, and get interdependent for many others, in which dependence is a necessity. Thus, every village first concern will be uh, to grow its own food crops, cotton for its own needs for cloth. It could be reserved for cattle, recreations, and playground for adults and children. Then, if there is more land available, you have to grow useful money crops, thus excluding ganja, tobacco, opium, and like. So, village will maintain a village state school and to hold their own the anyone in the world. They can enjoy with this. There will be neither plague nor cholera nor smallpox. None will be ideal. No one will follow a luxury. Also, he quoted about when he was studying about the Panchayat Raj, he is telling that he enlisted some other functions, including the conventional functions, say the legislative, judiciary, and executive functions. These functions can be described in the he has telling about the Panchayat Raj when he the self-sufficient, the Panchayat Raj system that is self-governing, self-rule of the village. Every worker of the Panchayat will hear Badi. They would adore the casteism in their social life. Record would be paid to all religions. Every member of the Panchayat would know every inhabitant of this locality personally. Then every Panchayat would make arrangements of training for the villagers and maintain register of the name of the trained persons. Every worker should enlist his daily programs. Every Panchayat should make arrangements so that every village would be self-sufficient through agriculture means. So India is agriculture mainly focused, the main occupation is agriculture. So that could be involved more. The Panchayat will give training on other besides the sanitation and hygiene and try to eradicate various diseases. So these another important when he was telling about the Panchayat, the Panchayat should be the important prerequisites for the establishment of such ideal village. The ideal village should be well lighted, then well ventilated houses. In those periods, only one the villages. If you look into the villages, there will be one room with 5 members or 10 members living in that particular house without a ventilations, proper ventilations. So that he was very concerned about every village, every streets should be well lighted, well ventilated houses, then built by raw materials, avoidable from the same localities. So clean roads, wells for villages purpose, then place to worship for all communities, general meeting place, primary and secondary schools. So these are expected the facilities in the village. Then women empowerment was one of the Gandhiji's main goals. The Gandhijis also have the environmental consciousness, moral values, intrapersonal skills, community and society-oriented awareness to inculcate that in the young minds through education. When he was speaking about the environmental crisis, and Gandhi was very much influenced by our tradition and this, stress influenced by tradition and stressed on the truth and non-violence. So according to Gandhi, man has no power to create life. Therefore, he has no right to destroy the life. If the environment is to be saved from degradations, we have to avoid or limit the use of machineries. But he was not against the machines, but he wanted to have the appropriate technologies. He instead of machines, the mass production. Also, he promotes Khadi and village industries already have become more relevant today than during the freedom struggles. So village and the cottage industries, Khadi industries, we must bring back. It is already there, but the needs for the Khadi and village industries, it is appropriate time to revive all those things. Health and hygiene are needed in rural India. Many other aspects of life are discussed in the constructive programs. So these are the some of the points which I wanted to discuss with you. This is about the Gandhian way of rural development. When we talk about either any models, Gandhian models, rural development models at various places, even now, there are people, they are followers of Gandhi, they have adapted Gandhian principles, and also they are doing some kind of the work for the welfare of the people at the village. So here there are some of the great people. They do it in their own way of the rural development. We all these two people are familiar, and they are all got national awards for their achievements on rural development. So here, the Raleighan village, Anna Fasare, he has tremendously given a successful model. That model also replicated in 4 states in our country. So here, the Anna Fasare has also bring some of the wonderful development in his own village, Raleighan, which was situated in the Maharashtra state near Pune. He was the Gandhian, also he is the Gandhian follower. He has given the his own village, his own native village, Raleighan. Raleighan is a village, a small village. He has given, he contributed many things with the help of the local youth. Through that youth, he has developed in a village called Raleighan. When he entered into the, before he entered into that village, the Annas, that village situation is very, very, very worst. It was the famine, shortage of water for cattle, and also the problem of unemployment, sustenance. Then alcoholism is the first place. Then illicit liquor is also sale in that villages. Per capita income, if you look into that per capita income, it is 271 and less than 240 hectares under in Bajra, only 20 hectares under irrigated farm. So these are the conditions before Anna Hazare intervened in this village. After Anna Hazare intervention, he wanted to promote united efforts. Earlier, when before he come to that village, there was discriminations, and the people were separated. They don't mingle with each other. They have a quarrel. They don't have any kind of the meeting tours. So this kind of things were happened in the before Annamasare interventions. After he coming back, he wanted to promote the unity among the people in the village. He gathered information on development programs from many quarters and disseminated them. Also, he evolved 5 principles. Navsa Bandi, that is the ban on alcohol, then Kupad Bandi, ban on tree felling, then Chaurai Bandi, ban on open grazing, then Nas Bandi, family planning, and some other. He made the community adhere to the principles. And through that way, he also do some kind of, he has watershed development and management activities with community participation, then removal of superstitions and blind belief, construction of public and private toilets, health education, also the drain banks, he introduced in that village. Then the promotion of organic farming. This is what Gandhi said, the organic farming. So organic farming, and he tremendously given the plantations, tree plantations. The afforestation was given instead of the deforestation in that places. The education, awareness, and sensitization on tobacco use, education, starting primary and secondary and higher education, secondary schools, inculcating the values, life, and spiritual education apart from the formal education. So donated his land to his own land to the entire hostel building. His pension goes to the village fund. He never used the paise for his own purposes. He spent this village fund. He lived in the village temple with bare minimum belongings. So mobilized youth and made, he started the self-help groups, formations, credit society, and milk society. Also the another things that he made it, the outcome is the water table in the village considerably increased. 1,500 hectares of land get irrigated. Most marginal land have been brought under cultivations. Then widespread cultivations of vegetables, food grains. Village has become self-reliant. That is one. That is what Gandhiji's wanted to have. Every village should be self-reliant, self-sufficient village. So that kind of the village that the Anakasare is made his effort on his own village, and that village now it become 3,000 liters per day is sold outside the village. Thus now 1 crore income per annum is here. So these are the some of the promotions, developments on the part of that village with the help of those the youth and women, also the men. They participated in all the kinds of activities. The major outcome of this, note now, it was a very earlier deforestation is more after Annavasare's interventions. No tree felling and high vegetation, around 4 lakh trees were planted. 16 Cabion check dams, they were constructed along the wherever possible in that region. Then there was no open defecation. Earlier it was there. After this, no open defecation, no open grazing, stall feeding only. No use of tobacco. Tobacco-free village. This village is declared a tobacco-free village. Then no slaughtering animals as offering to goddesses of Bali. Per capita income is also raised. Then this model has been tried in AP, Odisha. Your place also it is there, and other part of India. So this is what the Anna Hazare effort on Gandhian line. So he was a follower of Gandhi, the principles. He did a wonderful way to bring that village a self-sustained village. Another, it is Vadandurai, another model village. This model village is located here in Tamil Nadu. It's called Vadandurai Panchayat. Vadandurai model village. He also received many awards, including national level. He was the president. His name is Shanmugam. He was assumed as president of the Vadandurai Panchayat in the year 1996. When he joined, the population under the council was 1,650. Sorry. Now the 9,500 people are living in this village. Almost 90% of the people in the villages under the Vadandurai Panchayat are agricultural laborers. Because of he ensured to provide basic facilities such as water, energy, housing to the villages. They were uplifted through development schemes. Earlier, the houses were built for people, the villages were declared less. He has a target when he, before coming to this, taking this administration as a panchayat president, all the houses are made up of hut. He declared that during my periods, so I wanted to remove all the huts, and there is no hut in the panchayat. So he also did a wonderful work in his own village, and he also declared that hutless house in the panchayats. Tribal communities lived here with 400 to 500 huts were removed and they built with the concrete houses. The panchayat shows honest corruptions and free administration by his leadership. There is no corruptions at any cost, any type of the demands put forth by the people or any kind of way. The corruption is free. Free administrations, transparent administrations is given by this Panchayat president. Then earlier, the water, the drinking water is very big problem in that village. There could be water service deficit also during the summer period. From that, he wanted to have water for drinking to their own the people. For his efforts, the community participation scheme, where 10% of the contributions was to be obtained from the community, and 90% from the government of India. The World Bank supported from the government. As a result, earlier only one village had drinking water facilities. After his interventions, all the villages received the drinking water supply in the panchayats. As far as the educational development is concerned, earlier the children traveled nearly 10 to 20 kilometers for getting the schools to Metropolitan to attend the school. But now there is primary, middle, and high school in the village council area. With his own periphery, he established primary, middle, and high schools in order to avoid the 20 kilometers by his own children to get the schools. So there are schools in the villages, no dropouts. All the students are attending well and they don't have the dropouts. So 40 to 50 children were studying earlier. Now 300 to 50 to 400 children, and this is a huge change for their efforts. Then poverty reductions and surplus power. The power is power. He also made surplus power. This panchayat has also set up its own windmill with the help of people. He established windmills and is generating income out of it. Every year, the panchayat is selling additional power from those windmills generated to the state electricity board and earn a revenue of rupees 19 lakhs every year. So this is also a corruption-free panchayats. Every paisa was put into development of the villages, and that is the reasons for the success of the panchayats. If any village wants to bring development, there should be no corruptions. Only then the success is possible. So Gandhi quote is on be the change you want to see in the world. This is what Gandhi quote. He also telling about his another quote is my life is my message. So this is what Mahatma Gandhiji's effort. Based on that, there are people even now they are doing it very consciously for the welfare of the people at the grassroots level. So with this, I conclude. Also, I thank the organizers of the seminar. Thank you one and all for patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir,
Thank you.
for an excellent talk on the topic, Gandhian approach to rural development. Professor Moni has discussed so many things.
Okay.
I will ask that question. We have collected some questions. We will definitely discuss in the last phase. So if I summarize what you have talked, then you have discussed the word of Sarvodaya. The word of Sarvodaya is coined by Gandhi. It stands for welfare of all. You have discussed many aspects of Sarvodaya. You discussed social philosophy of Sarvodaya. You have told that Gandhiji always wanted to form classless society, gender equality, and many more you have discussed. And also you have rightly said, literacy is not the end of education. Sarvodaya philosophy includes basic education that you have discussed. Then you have discussed the political philosophy of Sarvodaya. That includes decentralization of power. We all know the benefit of a decentralization of power. When powers separates in ancient period, we can find power holds within one hand, which is called king, autocratic rule. Now the decentralization of power used local self-government. You have also told about local self-government. I want to say one thing here. We have a huge population of a young generation. If we channelizes that resource through self-sufficiency, we can get everything. Okay, you have talked about rural reconstruction effort and Gandhian constructive program, and you have rightly said so many things. Definitely, we have collected some questions and we'll discuss in the last point of this session. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, we have with us Professor Dr. Jayanti Dora Madam, Department of History, Utkal University, Bani Behar, from Odisha. She will discuss on the topic relevance of Gandhiji's concept of self-reliance villages in India. Over to you, madam.
Hello.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. You are audible.
Okay. So, good morning, one and all. I am Professor Jayanti Dora. I am going to present my paper on topic relevance of the Gandhiji's concept of self-reliant villages in India. So, Honorable Professor Madam Dr. Sanghamitra Das, the Vice Chancellor of Fakir Mohan University, respected Professor Sushil Kumar Giri, Principal, Rural Institute of Higher Education Studies, respected speakers, Professor Christian Barto, Professor R. Mani, esteemed convener Dr. Harendra Narayan Behera, coordinator Dr. Jagannath Kumar, organizing secretary Mr. Ranjit Mandal, moderator Mr. Sushant Kumar Pradhan, and all the distinguished audience participants. So, before going to discuss my topic, I would like to express my gratitude and sincere thanks to the organizer of this program for organizing such a beautiful program on the very relevant topic of self-reliant India, which is a very timely concept and very important theme of the topic. Before going to discuss my topic, also I would like to say that Professor Bartop and Professor Mani said so exhaustively about Ahimsa and Satyagraha of Mahatma Gandhi, as well as the Sarvodaya and the self-reliant villages. I have nothing to say more, but still I will try to say something or share my power present to say only on the concept of self-reliant agriculture and self-reliant industrial sector in the villages. Now I am going to share my PowerPoint presentation. Am I allowed to share my PowerPoint? Mr. Convener, should I share my PowerPoint presentation?
It's not visible exactly.
Visible.
No, ma'am. You are the co-host, ma'am. You can share your screen, ma'am. But it's visible, ma'am.
Relevance of Gandhiji's concept of self-reliant villages in India. This is a very relevant topic for the present situation when our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi sir declared Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this is a very connective topic for the Atmanirbhar Bharat. This topic is very much connected to the theme. So Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the father of nation, was at the same time a great lawyer, anti-colonial nationalist, freedom fighter, educationist, political saint, philosopher, and a nation builder par excellence. He was the man of millennium. It was with his weapon of non-violence he fought against the mighty British rule and brought independence for the Indian on 15th August 1947. He immensely contributed for the upliftment of the downtrodden people of India. Though he was primarily known as a freedom fighter, he had also very definite ideas on the efficient ways of India's economic and social development. In fact, his idea is very relevant in the present India as Gandhian model of self-reliance. Now it has been the basis of the making India Atmanirbhar or self-reliant by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It is in this context a study is being made to discuss the relevance of Mahatma Gandhi's concept of self-reliance villages in India, which will ultimately make India Atmanirbhar. If a village will be Atmanirbhar, that will definitely contribute to the Atmanirbhar of the Bharat. Therefore, this concept is very relevant and a topic to be discussed thoroughly in different conferences or in different platforms. The village as the nucleus of economic growth has always been given the prominent importance in Gandhian economics. He said that, am I audible? Hello. He said that the soul of India remains in villages and body in the city. Further, he mentioned that India lives not in a handful of her big cities, but in 7 lakh villages which are in our country. Now the number is to some extent increased. If India is to attain true freedom and through India the world also, then sooner or later the fact must be recognized that people will have to live in villages and not in towns. In village Swaraj, that is establishment of a village republic which was based on the man-centered, non-exploiting, decentralized, simple village economy providing full employment to each and every citizen on the basis of voluntary cooperation and working for achieving self-sufficiency. This is the motto of the present day India also, according to the call of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Economic development of a country depends on the proper utilization of resources, both human as well as material. India at the time of independence had a very low level of economic and technological development, low per capita income, slow pace of development of economy and social institutions, and the methods of production was also traditional. And that was very challenging for the people of India to face all those issues. So, the main objective then was to attain and accelerate the economic development of the country. However, when India started planning strategy in 1951-52, there was debate on India's development issues and challenges, and the debate mainly centered around both the Gandhian approach as well as the Nehruvian approach. Nehru adopted modernizing approach of the planning, that is socialist framework of economic policy. He also viewed planning as a way of avoiding unnecessary rigorous industrialization because that will harmful for the masses. Further, he believed that this way would affect the people living in the rural areas. Therefore, he also learned some lessons from Gandhiji, and accordingly, he initiated policy which centered around the rural masses. And Gandhian approach was what? He said that about the self-sufficient village communities and issues relating to better between man and nature. Gandhian approach was that it should be very simple one and self-sufficient one, and there should be good balance relation between nature and man. Gandhiji wanted to have an ideal society of his own imagination, and his economic ideas are a part and parcel of his philosophical as well as sociological ideas. He was interested in the growth of human beings and more significantly, the growth of the deprived and underprivileged classes of the society. Also, he gave importance for the upliftment of the women of the society. He was, in fact, the supporter of the maximization of social welfare. And he had a belief that the growth of an economy is relied on the development of the totality of human personality. Growth of one is not the real growth. Growth of masses is the real growth. According to him, an increase in personal income is an indication of the growth of national income. But the opposite may not be true. The growth of national income always benefit every individual in the society is not true. So, Gandhian concept of self-reliant village economy. What is the Gandhian concept of self-reliant village economy? That Gandhiji holds the view of the maximization of social welfare. And for this, he gives prime importance to the welfare of the individual by reducing disparities in income and wealth of the people. According to Gandhiji, every person should be provided with minimum necessity. Those are food, shelter, and clothing. Concentration of wealth to a few groups of people certainly will shatter the dream of a society which is based on socialistic and humanitarian values. So now we shall discuss the self-sufficiency in the agricultural sector. Here I am giving emphasis on the agricultural sector as well as industrial sector. So now in the agricultural sector, Gandhiji is in favor of the self-sufficient village economy, where the villages will be the independent economic unit. Many things have been already told by our professor Mani sir about the self-sufficient villages. So I am not repeating all those things. Some things are given here. In agriculture, the techniques should be adopted, which will not deplete or deteriorate the soil and pollute the environment. Hence, farmers should use eco-friendly production techniques by using lesser and lesser amount of fertilizer, insecticides and pesticides. Gandhiji he always prefers well irrigation instead of large hydroelectric projects, since this will lead to exploitation of the farmers because they have to pay much for the hydroelectric project. Rather, they should use well for their irrigation. That was the concept of Mahatma Gandhi for living a simple life. So how Gandhiji is associated with the village people will reflect this picture. As regards the ownership of land holding, Gandhiji is against the zamindari system, and ownership of land should go to the actual tillers of the soil. He also viewed that there should be communal ownership of land for balanced cultivation, and the surplus land, if any, must be distributed to the rest of the village communities. India lives in villages, and naturally, the development of the country depends on the development of the villages. All the goods and services necessary for the village member should be grown within the village, and in a word, every village should be a self-sufficient village and just like a republic. If every village distributes its surplus produce to the poor villagers, and then there will not be the problem of poverty and starvation in the rural areas. Only this can help eradicating poverty, and thus people can be happy and self-reliant throughout the nation. Next, the Gandhian concept of self-sufficiency in industrial sector. Agricultural sector alone cannot solve the problem of rural poverty and unemployment. Therefore, Gandhiji also made his program about the development of the industrial sector of the villages. And that is why Gandhiji gives stress on the growth of the rural industries like khadi, handloom, sericulture, handicrafts, etc. He opines that large-scale industry makes people lazy and help concentration of wealth in the hands of few. Therefore, that should be based on rural industry, and rural industry will give employment to the people of the rural area, and they also get their raw materials etc. from the locality, and the goods which were prepared in their locality should be easily available by the people of the locality through their local market, and the surplus goods or products should be marketed in the locality, or it can be export also. Therefore, there is no problem of production and market, because the production will be not so much that it will create problems. It will be easily sold in the local market, and that can also be utilized by the people of the locality. Large scale production create conflict between labor and capital. Here capital takes upper hand over labor. Such conflicts may not occur in the case of rural industrialization or in rural industries. Rural industries are the symbol of unity and equality in the country. In India, large-scale industries have been concentrated in a few big cities like Mumbai, Calcutta, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Jamshedpur, etc. But rural areas are without big industries. Concentration of these industries in few cities has led to a number of problems like air and water pollution as well as overcrowded population, which we will see nowadays in various cities of the country and even outside the India. With With this, there arises different types of pollution in the air and water, and in addition, large-scale industries prompted monopolistic trends and unequal distribution of income. Rural industries, on the other hand, help decentralization of economic activity, and a large proportion of income generated in these industries gets distributed among the workers and among a large section of the society. Gandhi is not in favor of large-scale industry in the sense that these industries are not related to a vast population living in rural areas, because most of our people are living in the rural areas and that will not suffice to the living standards of the rural people. Thus, industrialization, according to Gandhi, does not help the growth of the personality in total. Contrarily, it helps only the material progress of a few. Our handicrafts were destroyed by the use of machinery by the English rulers. So machinery being capital intensive, displaces labor and creates unemployment and underemployment. He was not against industrialization, but it should not be concentrated in a few places. It should be distributed, well distributed in different cities. And but in the rural areas, there should be small scale industries so that the people can easily handle it and there will be employment in the rural areas. Machinery creates a situation where it improves the economic condition of a few at the cost of many unfortunate rural people, leaving them unemployed and exploited. Therefore, it is a situation for gain of a few people. But what is disappointing is that it reduces welfare of a large section of the rural population. Relevance of Gandhiji's concept of economy. For attaining smooth development of the economy, it is important to develop all the regions of the country simultaneously. The overall progress of the entire economy depends on the balanced development of all the regions. In India, there exist a huge regional disparities. In relative terms, some states are advanced economically and some other states are backward. Even within a state, some districts are more backward than the rest. For example, in Odisha, Chhattisgarh, etc., are economically backward in comparison to the states like Punjab, Gujarat, Rajasthan, etc. Further, the districts like Bargarh, Kalahandi, Nuapara, etc. are backward in comparison to Cuttack, Khordha, and Baleshwar, etc. in Odisha. So such kind of disparities must be eradicated from the society for the balanced growth of the society. In Odisha, for example, the eastern part of the state, popularly known as coastal Odisha, comprising 6 districts, are relatively prosperous than the western districts in terms of productivity, in agriculture, educational development, health facilities, etc. Even within the regions of western Odisha, I have already told you, there are districts like Kalahandi, Balangir, etc. are underdeveloped. And if we compare them with some other districts like Sambalpur and Jharsuguda in the same western part of Odisha. So this disparity should be eradicated from the society. In this context, Gandhian economy is very relevant, which supports the attainment of self-sufficiency, level of industrialization, or uniform economic pattern or growth for each villages as well as regions. The Gandhian economy is of the view that every man should increase his personal income and standard of living by exploiting the existing natural and human resources fully eco-friendly manner. In lines with Gandhiji's dream of expanding village industry, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948, 1956 and 1977 have offered a special favor for the development of small-scale and village industries in India. The village and small-scale industries have been playing an important role in Indian economy in terms of employment generation as well as poverty eradication. This is due to the fact that these industries are labor intensive and capital saving. The total employment created by these industries, for example, were 397,000 in 1973-74, and this rose to 1,298,000 in 1991-92. According to Economic Survey 2000 and 2001, the estimated employment of the cottage and small scale sector again rose to 17,85,000, and the growth rate of this sector during 91-92 to 1999 and 2000 was around 4%. So when stress is given to the development of small scale industry, we can find the growth of the industrial sector, and this sector's contribution towards export during the same period in value terms has increased from 9,100 crore to 36,470 crore. This shows a growth rate of over 300%. So in the post-reform period, khadi and village industry play a very important role in providing employment opportunity to the disadvantaged group of the people of the society. And these industries have spread in about 25 villages out of total 58,000, 58 lakh 1,000 villages of India in 1997 to 1998. So in order to be more competitive in the world market, the Khadi and Village Industry Commission has introduced Khadi denim jeans and Sarvodaya brand, which are very popular in India, and these are also very eco-friendly and biodegradable natural products and have high demand in the world market also. Modern mechanization in agriculture has increased productivity, but at the same time reduced employment opportunity. Therefore, Gandhi always said that when he was during the freedom struggle, तुम मुझे सूत दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगी. Just like Subhash Chandra Bose told that तुम मुझे blood दो, तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगी. The motto of Mahatma Gandhi was तुम मुझे सूत दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगी. So Mahatma Gandhi believed in the small scale industry or cottage industry, particularly to make khadi in each and every houses of the villages. Naturally, trust should be provided on the creation of rural employment opportunity in the non-farm sector also. The Gandhian view of self-sufficient village economy is also relevant in the context of reducing poverty and unemployment in rural India. And in 1972-73, 54.1% people lived below the poverty line in rural India, and that was also decreased in 1993-94. This rate again come down to 37.3%. So due to this growth of agricultural sector and rural industrialization, there is the level of living standard of the people was increased, and the poverty line, people below poverty lines were also decreased. So the data presented here about the poverty in rural India have been collected from various issues of economic survey and planning commission. So although the ratio of poverty has been declining, roughly 1/3 of the rural people still live in abject poverty. In order to improve the condition of the rural poor, it is necessary to expand rural industries further at a rapid rate. At the same time, it is essential to review seriously the rural anti-poverty programs in the light of lapses noticed and in the context of formulating the subsequent 5-year plans in the country. So, my concluding remarks are like this. Gandhi is of the view that total employment of human resources is the primary need of a country. It is true that national income will increase if each and every person is employed completely, whether he is skilled one or unskilled one. This cannot be possible only with the development of large-scale industry. So, because large-scale industry is a labor-saving in nature. Agricultural sector too cannot solve only the unemployment or underemployment problem due to the seasonal nature. So, we should combine both development of rural industrialization or village industrialization and also agricultural sector. Therefore, mechanization and large-scale production cannot provide the solution to the problem of poverty and unemployment. Self-sufficient village economy is an alternative solution, and in this context, the role of institutions in the rural sector like the village panchayat and rural multi-purpose cooperative societies or Gerengola can play a significant role in the present day villages also, and it performs multi-purpose activities like deposit mobilization, credit supply, sale of inputs in like fertilizer, hybrid seeds, farmers, hybrid seeds to farmers, purchase of agricultural goods, cloth business, etc. Ration soap. In addition to the above activities, the society set up grain gola or grain warehouse, and the bylaws of the society require members to purchase a share of the grain gola, and the grain gola also gives paddy loan to the members, and the grain gola helps the marginal and small farmers and landless laborers by providing paddy loans for consumption purpose at a reasonable rate of interest, saving them from the hands of the private holders who had been charging a very high rate of the interest if they will give loan. The society also constructed cold storage which gives preference to the member after meeting the needs of the members. The farmers of the locality also given the same facility. The society also gives loans to the people against their utensils pledged at a very low rate of the interest. This saves them from the clutches of the private moneylender who had for a long time been charging an interest so higher that people could not repay loans and thus ultimately bound to sell their things. So the cooperative society also provide irrigation facilities to the farmer. For this, tube wells were also installed. This society also performs social welfare activities. All the welfare activities are so designed, identified and implemented that nobody is a loser and that everybody living in the village emerges gainer. And the society is able to create a benign atmosphere all around, and members legitimately feel that it is their society, and it also their development depends upon that society. This is the example of contribution of local economic growth to the global economic advancement. And this can fulfill Gandhiji's dream of self-sufficient village economy, which will ultimately bring Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, for an excellent talk. Thank you so much. You have explained about the Gandhian approach and Nehruvian approach. When the 5-year plans were formulated, there was a confusion what to follow. You have pointed out mass industrialization could be harmful for our overall development. You have also said that growth of one man is not enough. Growth of a mass development is necessary. And we have to eliminate economic disparity with among all. You have also pointed out self-sufficiency in the agricultural sector, how to maximize the income of peasants, how to develop their way of life, their way of living of life. You have explained about communal ownership of land for balanced economy. Gandhi focused on the growth of rural industry. So we have to focus on rural development so that our country will reach a greater height and a greater height. Rural industries create harmony and the symbol of equality and unity. You have also told rightly said that rural industry creates harmony. It was a nice talk, madam. You have also pointed out balanced development in a geographical point of view. We are always talking about that eastern region is backward, western region is development one. No, we have to focus on a holistic approach. We have to develop our four wheelers of our geographical economy. And as we know, Odisha is the doorstep, is the window of northeastern states. And you have also rightly said that self-sufficiency of Indian village is badly needed for us. We have huge number of population. India lives in villages, and you have really good lecture in this topic. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Now, this is the time to start question hour session. For that, I would like to request Dr. Jagannath Kumara to collect the question and share with our guests. Over to you, sir.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Kharendra Narayan Bera, HOD Department of History. So, it's a great pleasure for me to carry over this question and answer session. And for that, I'd like to invite all the virtual participants to participate. But we had collected some questions, and after that, you can ask. Also, we'll have Dr. Kumar Varda sir, and our request sir, you will take the active role in the question and answer session, sir. We want to listen you, sir, but the problem is we have the next session from 1 p.m. onwards. So we want that you will be means concluding dialogue. In concluding dialogue, you can participate, sir. Such a kind request, sir, to you. So anyway, so let me start with the theme that is carried out by Professor Christian Wartholf. So are you there, sir, Christian Wartholf?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So you have highlighted many aspects, and the topic is a new era, the example of Dukhobor, in the words of Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi. And in that topic, we had collected some questions from participants. The first question is from Rajesh. What is the difference between industry and industrialization, which Gandhi speaks to us? Are you getting my question, sir?
Yes, the difference between industry and industrialization.
According to Gandhian perspective, sir.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I would like to refer to a central quote of Gandhi. I already gave this in this chat, the source in the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi. And you find this in the Gandhi Heritage Portal. So we all can read Gandhi firsthand now, thanks to this great project. And it's a reliable edition. I'm very grateful. So if we see volume 85, and there's an article, Independence. And this is a very interesting summary of Gandhi's vision. And this was in July 21st, 1946, published in Harijan on 28th of July 1946. This is pages 32 to 34. And I will quote this now as my comprehensive answer to this great question. Independence of India should mean independence of the whole of India, including what is called India of the states and the other foreign powers, French and Portuguese, who are there, I presume by British sufferance. Independence must mean that of the people of India, not of those who are today ruling over them. The rulers should depend on the will of those who are under their heels. Thus, they have to be servants of the people, ready to do their will. Independence must begin at the bottom. Thus, every village will be a republic or panchayat having full powers. It follows, therefore, that every village has to be self-sustained and capable of managing its affairs even to the extent of defending itself against the whole world. It will be trained and prepared to perish in the attempt to defend itself against any onslaught from without. Thus, ultimately, it is the individual who is the unit. This does not exclude dependence on and willing help from neighbors or from the world. It will be free and voluntary play of mutual forces, such as society is necessarily highly cultured, in which every man and woman knows what he or she wants, and what is more, knows that no one should want anything that others cannot have with equal labor. This society must naturally be based on truth and non-violence, which, in my opinion, are not possible without a living belief in God, meaning a self-existent, all-knowing living force which inheres every other force known to the world and which depends on none and which will live when all other forces may conceivably perish or cease to act. I am unable to account for my life without belief in this all-embracing living light. In this structure, composed of innumerable villages, there will be ever-widening, never-ascending circles. Life will not be a pyramid with the apex sustained by the bottom, but it will be an oceanic circle whose center will be the individual, always ready to perish for the village, the latter ready to perish for the circle of villages, till at last the whole becomes one life composed of individuals, never aggressive in their arrogance, but ever humble, sharing the majesty of the oceanic circle of which they are integral units. Therefore, the outermost circumference will not wield power to crush the inner circle, but will give strength to all within and derive its own strength from it. It may be taunted with the retort that this is all utopian and therefore not worth a single thought. If Euclid's point, though incapable of being drawn by human agency, has an imperishable value, my picture has its own for mankind to live. Let India live for this true picture, though never realizable in its completeness. We must have a proper picture of what we want before we can have something approaching it. If there ever is to be a republic of every village in India, then I claim verity for my picture in which the last is equal to the first, or in other words, no one is to be the first and none the last. In this picture, every religion has its full and equal place. We are all leaves of a majestic tree, whose trunk cannot be shaken off its roots, which are deep down in the bowels of the earth. The mightiest wind cannot move it. In this, there is no room for machines that would displace human labor and that would concentrate power in a few hands. Labor has its unique place in a cultured human family. Every machine that helps every individual has a place. But I must confess that I have never sat down to think out what that machine can be. I have that thought of Singer's sewing machine, but even that is perfunctory. I do not need it to fill in my picture. Congressmen themselves, the congressmen themselves are not of one mind even on the contents of independence. I do not know how many swear by non-violence or the Charter, or believing in decentralization, regard the village as the nucleus. I know on the contrary that many would have India become a first-class military power and wish for India to have a strong center and build the whole structure around it. In the medley of these conflicts, I know that if India is to be leader in clean action, based on clean thought, God will confound the wisdom of these big men and will provide the villages with the power to express themselves as they should. I must not contemplate darkness before it stares me in the face. And in no case can I be party, irrespective of non-violence, to a universal strike and capture of power. Though, therefore, I do not know what I should do in the case of a breakdown, I know that the actuality will find me ready with an alternative. My sole reliance being on the living power, which we call God. He will put the alternative in my hands when the time has come, not a minute sooner. So this was the answer of Gandhi. Quite comprehensive.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It's a very nice, deliberate answer. And another question from Kannunath. Is it possible to follow the Gandhi philosophy to minimize the international crisis like war, competition of nuclear weapon, like that, sir?
Very fine question. Yes, I think in our system now, it is difficult. There is a reform necessary, a profound reform from the United Nations with the wonderful Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as we know, with the preamble which is directed against the scourge of war, the preamble of the UN Charter. But we need a world federation with world citizenship. This is high time. And we are actually young enough. If we are 60 or 20, we are young enough to appeal to all those in power, keeping up brute force, creating fear, to step down until they understand that such a world federation and such a world citizenship without passport, without military, is necessary for all and everyone in the villages, in the cities, doing whatever labor, and that unemployment is a disgrace to mankind, and that there should be a guaranteed income, equality for all. This is the challenge of the hour, and this is the challenge for the future generation. Not just the survival of mankind, the ecological survival, but a new world federation. Otherwise, this planet will certainly not longer exist.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a very nice response to the participant. And another and last question, sir, from Sanjay Kumar. In today's context, we have many geosocial settlements. So there are many emergence of many middle class in a great number, it's the question is how Sarvodaya could possible in 21st century in Indian context.
And maybe I did not fully understand the question.
Okay, the question is, it's a fragmented question. I also not getting exactly the holistic view, but the question is in this way that in today's condition, we have many geosocial settlements and emergence of their middle classes in great numbers. And so how Sarvodaya could possibly help all that middle classes in 21st century in India, especially in Indian context. So like that, the question is.
Yes, I would like to comment the following from my experience of middle class in Germany, that a society, a democratic society, stands and falls with the degree of social responsibility, which is understood by so-called middle class. Middle, of course, presumes that there is a upper class and a lower class. And if you understand society in a caste class system with privileges, this society is doomed to fail. But if you understand a democratic society according to the principles of liberté, fraternité, égalité, that means, freedom, equality, and fraternity, brother and sisterhood, then we can come to a beloved community according to the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But if you define yourself as, in a Calvinist sense, that your wealth is a proof of your privilege and the grace of God, then I think you will be doomed to fail. And we should always see that social responsibility means to serve others, to share, not just referring to taxes. But let us remember that there are trade unions, strong trade unions. And so the industrial relations are also linked with trade unions. And please remember the history of, in the United States, for example, of Joe Hill. When I was in India in 1985, I was in Shantiniketan, in Tagore's place, and I celebrated the birthday of Tagore together with Indian students. I was 25, I was a student myself. And there were so many beautiful renderings of artists on the stage from Odisha also. But there was only one English language song performed by a mime, a wonderful mimic performance I will never forget. So impressive. It was a song I knew from Pete Seeger and other great singers, from Joe and Baez. And the song was a song for the labor movement. And it was Joe Hill. Joe Hill, who we know wrote new texts for hymns, for religious hymns, in favor of the concern of the independent trade unions, the labor movement. Joe Hill became the hero, non-violent hero of the labor movement in the United States of America. He was a Swedish immigrant, Joseph Hillström. I saw Joe Hill last night. And then there was another song, John Henry. John Henry, a railroad worker. And these songs were performed. I was deeply moved. And so I think this is, let me say, our duty. I myself am a member of a trade union of teachers. And it is a quite progressive organization, institution. I never regretted to become a member of this trade union. As long as there is private property, as long as there's no independent socialism, nonviolent socialism, as long as there is a caste class society, I think it's urgent to stress the fact that trade unions are essential and should be also a topic in such a session, not just in India, by the way, in Germany the same. And the parties shall be challenged to care for independent journalism and independent trade unions. Independent. This is a real challenge. The same challenge as fair elections. These are great challenges.
So, thank you very much, sir. So when you caught the exact theme that when you are in India, and there was a celebration regarding Arun Tagore, and you have enjoyed the things. And when someone non-Indian talk about these things, we feel great, sir. Definitely, it's a pleasure for us that you were there at that time. So thank you very much, sir. That was our last question. And we'll open the session for the participants. And next, we'll ask some questions to Professor Rajdurani Mani. Sir, are you there, sir? Professor Mani, are you there, sir? Professor Mani? Okay. Hello, sir. Okay. Professor Mani, are you listening to me, ma'am? Okay. So I think there is a network error, or you may not connected with us. We'll move to our next question answer session. And for that, I'd like to request Professor Jayanti Dora, ma'am. Is it audible to you, ma'am? Professor Mani is connected now. So, Professor Mani, there are some questions we have collected from our participants. The questions are, Professor Mani, is it audible to you?
Yes, tell me.
Yeah. The question is,
I'm here.
Asked by Abhay Jana. So our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has taken principles of Gandhian philosophy of village sanitation as Swachh Bharat mission and make the India for Atmanirbhar Bharat. How far we are successful, and what are the hindrances coming in the way of Atmanirbhar Bharat and Swachh Bharat mission? That is the question, sir.
Yes. Very good question. Here, our the Prime Minister of India successfully has implemented the scheme Swachh Bharat mission. Already it was given by Mahatma Gandhi in his constructive program. He has given it is one of the program known as the village sanitation and health and hygiene. It is about the one of the program of Mahatma Gandhi. So this program earlier, if you enter into the villages, the nearly any village, any Indian villages, if you go there into that village, if you enter into that, there is an open defecations everywhere. You can see. So in order to overcome these issues, in order to avoid this kind of the open defecation, so the rural sanitations in the name of village sanitation and health and hygiene. Gandhi very much interested to purely we must have the without any kind of the diseases, so that we could keep our village clean, and the village hygiene, it must be there according to Gandhi. Based on that, the concept, it was involved by our the present government. The present government is introducing the Swachh Bharat mission. That Swachh Bharat mission is very much involved in the in-depth villages. Even now, it was helpful, very helpful to the society living in rural areas. More number of toilets were constructed under this Swachh Bharat mission. So more number of people, they come forward to construct the toilet, and also in that way they are very clean, and they kept it to their villages neat and clean, and also the sanitations and village hygiene is kept it for very clean. Also the awareness generation is given to the each and every villages through their own panchayat administrations and block panchayats and district administrations. So based on the awareness, education is given in depth in each and every villages. The village people that are aware that this was the very wonderful program that we have to adapt. This was the people's knowledge. Even every village people adapted this kind of the recent program known as the Swachh Bharat mission under the able leadership of our Prime Minister. It was success, and also it succeed in another forthcoming years.
Okay. Thank you
We
very
will
much,
expect 100% village sanitations,
yeah, thank you very
and
much,
also
sir.
health and hygiene.
Yeah, so we should expect that, because
Yes.
it's a necessity, it's a need of ours, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for this beautiful answer. Sir, this was the last question for you, and we open the session for the participant. They will ask, but before that, I'd like to ask. I have collected one question for Professor Dora ma'am. So I welcome ma'am to this question and answer session. The question is, Professor Dora ma'am. The question is, in the present scenario, the village politics is ruined all over the developmental work. Can we eradicate this narrow politics nexus through Gandhian Sarvodaya? Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
In these questions, we at the grassroots level, that's why Gandhi is very particular about the partyless democracy at the grassroots level. No, if there is no party, but it is already there in the villages, the party politics is also there. But according to Gandhi and his concept, what we think about now, the village, we must have the communal unity and also the democracy, participations, village participation, and the every villagers should come forward for their own developments without considering the party politics.
Yeah, thank
So
you very
this
much.
could be this could be a very actually the party politics. It is some more than the village. No, they have, but at the grassroots level, party politics it is always there, but it should be avoided. But at the same time, the party politics, as according to the Gandhi, he was emphasized the party-less politics, party-less democracy. He telling about a partyless democracy. The partyless democracy, it is essential for every village so that the villages will come up well without any discrimination, without any conflict among the people, irrespective of politics.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
Professor Dora, ma'am, do you want to add something regarding this answer, ma'am?
I think
Over
Yes.
to you, ma'am.
it was to me, but sir has already told the answer about that question.
Okay, ma'am.
Party politics is there in every villages. Nowadays, it is a very bad scenario, but if we will do it in a positive way, we will discuss the problems of and issues of the people in a positive way and come to some solution that it will be better. It should not be like the party politics of the present day in the state level or in the national level. In the villages, each and every member should be the party of the member of the same party. We all belong to the same party. There should not be any differences among us in the villages, at least in the village panchayat. Everybody belongs to the same party, so we should discuss in a positive way and come to the conclusion and solve our problems. Then there will not be any conflict or any bad or nasty party politics in the villages, and that will also contribute to the national harmony at large.
For that, madam,
My-
the village youth may be oriented in such a way that
Is there any other question?
Yeah, ma'am. One more question. That is, it was asked by Smriti Smita. What may be the micro level policy to strengthen the village economy when the micro leadership in the village is so much interested in
we
what is village politics? What you have written?
Oh,
Are you getting my question, sir? Question, ma'am?
yeah. Micro level policies should be made for the development of the individual growth of the people of villages, particularly the village leaders and village representatives should be given, because micro level means the small. Macro means small. So
Very
in
small.
small economy, the study of the behavior of the individual as well as farms is related, and the demand and supply relationship is established in the micro level economics. And micro level economics, the government or any agency, there are also private agency like NGOs, etc., and also government agency can provide loans or some type of help financially or through some facilities to be given to them, and thereby they will lead and progress and contribute to the society. So micro level economy is always planned by the government also for in terms of monetary help as well as through the fiscal, that rebates also given in or subsidies were also given in taxes, etc., as well as financial aid were also given to the individual. And nowadays it is also given to each and every individual for their individual growth, for self-sufficiency. And that is the basis of the Atmanirbhar Bharat also. Because if we will provide some help and some financial aid to individual person, he will grow by his own stand. And that is also essential in the present day to face the challenges of unemployment and the challenges of the poverty, etc.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. So the session is open for the participant. The participant can unmute your video and audio. You can ask the question directly to our honorable speakers. Over to all the participants. You can unmute your audio and video. If you have any question, you can ask now. Please, over to participants. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. From Manoj Kumar Hui. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to ask one question to Madam Jayanti Dora.
Yeah.
That in our villages, sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, can you hear?
Yeah.
Yes,
You
please
can
continue.
ask.
Sir, in our sir, I do find that in our villages, there is very nice socio-economic development, infrastructure development. I mean to say there has been health facility available in villages. There has been education facility, communication facility, transport facility. But one lacuna, there is no employment opportunity. So far as MSME, so far as big industry, there is no such. Since my birth, I have been seeing in Odisha, we don't find any industry in our villages from government effort. So, so Gandhian economic policy has failed. I think has failed in India. I think government is not sincerely thinking about the acceptance and implementation of Gandhian economic policy. If yes, then why villages are deprived of industrialization? Why tiller is not the owner of land? Then why migrant laborers are, why during COVID-19 we find the plight of the rural youths, rural youths. They are compelled to go to rural urban areas, and they come back and they suffer. So why all these things happen? I want to get some clarification, madam.
Okay. Your question is too big, and it is a.
Madam, it is my I am very unhappy, madam. I am very unhappy. I am very unhappy for this. Government is speaking a lot of things. Atmanirbhar. But what? How can we be Atmanirbhar, madam?
Okay, that's why I'm telling that we should develop our own economy by our own labor, with our own hard labor. If we change our mindset first, that we should make ourselves self-dependent. There are lands, there are facilities in our villages of raw material. If we will make our own house, each house as a industry, because Gandhiji told that in each and every houses they make their clothes, make their usable things like oil, etc. in the village level, and that should give employment to the village people. They should not go outside the villages, and that were not done in our villages in the past. So in the present scenario, if we will try in that line, and we should establish small industry like making soap, making clothes, making Ayurvedic medicine, etc. in each and every villages with the help of the villagers. Then there should be ample opportunity of the employment and job generation, and that cannot force our people to go outside our villages or state to other part of the India or other part of the state. So if we will try in our own level, and then there is also need of the help of the government. But first we should initiate in our villages by our own help, by ourselves, small industries, small cottage industry, agro farming, etc. Then definitely our villages will improve economically, and that will contribute to the economic growth of the country. So first of all, we should change our mind, and we should try to develop our own house, own village, own society, and then we need the help of the government. It is not that everything can be done by the government. We can also do many things in our own way. So that is my view. And after doing ourselves, any need is or any other financial help is needed, then we should write to the government. Then government will offer us such funds. So first of all, we should try and start our own industry in our own villages. That is my
madam. One thing. When villagers are not the owners of the land, tiller is not the. I want to know that land occupation, land is possessed by a few in the villages, and most of the villagers are deprived of getting their land.
New planning should be made by the government.
Yeah, madam, I want to. Yes, madam. Yes, government has failed.
New planning should be made by the government. This is our suggestion. It may not be accepted or accepted. I am not in the administration. I cannot.
Yeah, madam.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. It's a nice question, and also the answer is pretty nice. That we have to think about before blaming the government of India or any other. We have to think about how to rectify ourselves. What can we do for our nation? That is a very nice answer. And it's exactly
No,
we
no,
are-
no, no, Jagannath sir, I am not blaming. I want to say that why
No, no.
Tiller is not the owner of the land.
No, no,
Tiller
no.
is not the owner of the land. Tiller
Yeah,
is
yeah.
not the owner of the land.
Yeah,
That
sir,
is my point.
Yes, sir, I understand, but it's a
Ah.
generalized view. I'm not just criticizing
Is it
you
more about the
Yeah.
communal?
or anyone else, but it's a generalized view that we have to think a lot for ourselves.
Unless Jagannath sir, unless and until Tiller becomes the owner of the land, there cannot be any progress in villages.
Yeah,
And
sir.
Indian economy is madam, Indian economy is based on agriculture. So
Yeah.
agriculture में develop कैसे होगा? तो so long as villagers are not the possessing their land, they are not owner of the land.
Yeah,
I want to say that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, madam.
definitely,
Thank you.
sir. Definitely, sir. It should be policy implementation should be from government.
Gandhian, no,
Yeah, sir.
Gandhian economic policy says this. Gandhian economic policy, Tiller should be the owner of land.
Yeah, sir, definitely. So
Gradually-
exactly, viewers, we are running out of time. For that, we cannot take much questions.
I have one question.
At
Hello.
1 o'clock, another session will be started from Department of English. So we are very sorry. You can communicate with our speakers later on to have guests.
Okay.
So thank you very much. And it's the time for the HOD, Department of History, for the concluding statement and vote of thanks. Over to Mr. Harendra Narayan Behra. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kumara.
Tapu.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for hosting this question hour session. My heartfelt thanks to all our guests and speakers. And now the turn is to give the vote of thanks. For that, I request Sasank Pradhan. Please, over to you, Sasank. Okay. You are in line.
Am I audible?
Yes.
England.
Good
Oxford
afternoon,
University, sir.
one and all. I Sri Sasanka Pradhan, Department of History, RIHS Vagarai. It gives an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks of this occasion. First of all, I am thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Madhumita Das, FM University, Baleshwar, Odisha, for her kind cooperation and who seems to be chief patron of this occasion. I also thankful to Professor Sushil Kumar Giri sir, Principal RIHS Bhagarai, who is the patron of this occasion. And I very much thankful to our keynote speakers, Professor Christian Bartolf, President of Gandhi Information Center, Berlin, Germany. And you have highlighted Gandhi emphasized on non-violence and self-sufficiency. And I also thankful to you, Professor R. Mani, School of Health Sciences and Rural Development, Gandhigram Rural Institute, Gandhigram, Tamil Nadu. He also highlighted Gandhi had simple living and high thinking. He explained the concept of Sarvodaya, removal of untouchability, casteless society, prohibition, equality of religion, village sanitation, social philosophy, economic philosophy, political philosophy, and etc. And I also thankful to my teacher and speaker of this occasion, Professor Jayanti Dora ma'am, PG Professor of PG Department of History, Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. She also discussed about Atmanirbhar Bharat and Gandhi want to establish village republic, no exploitation, no caste system, etc. I also thankful to our HOD Harendra Narayan Behera sir, convener of this occasion, and thankful to coordinator of this occasion, Dr. Jagannath Kumar sir, and organized secretary of Ranjit Mandal sir, and I thankful to Professor Jagannath Gangadhar Jena, former HOD of RIHS Bhogarai Department of History, and last but not the least, I also thankful to all participants of this occasion.
Thank you, Mr. Sasank Pradhan, for your vote of thanks. Thanks a lot, all our resource persons, participants who have joined, and we have a fruitful session here. Definitely, it will help our research scholars, our students, our faculty members to develop their thinking, their analytical thinking. Thank you so much. Now the webinar is end. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Organizer.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Christian,
Thank you, ma'am.
Professor Christian Battle, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Thank you all, sir. Thank you
Professor
all.
Mani, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.